Good morning to all. Today we all are meeting together. I think this cannot happen uh, in a college scenario where we only get 50 or 100 participants. Today we have a target audience of 500, and I'm sure we are not very far off. In fact, we are very close to each other. So I welcome all of you today to the national level webinar series to be held on 4th, 6th, and 8th of this month with speakers, great speakers like Dr. Prabodh Chobe, Head of R&D BS in India, Dr. Shailendra Saxena, the Vice and the Dean and Professor of King George Medical College, Lucknow, followed by Dr. N.V. Thakkar, ex-COE of Shivaji University. Now, the present scenario, if we look at, I feel very frightful with the education system. COVID-19 lockdown is placing pressure on the global economy, which every one of us is talking. The closure of higher education institution forced lecturers and students to adapt to the online environment with immediate effect. Enhanced and blended learning strategies as well as transdisciplinary knowledge production have been identified as possible benefits. But there are challenges. Unequal access to the internet and affordable data, along with inefficient broadband services and an increasing financial crisis, prevent equal online education opportunities for post-school youth. I see a lot of points and drawbacks in this scenario. There are some false sceneries at higher education which I see. Growing number of growing number of colleges intend to reopen the fall. Second, most teaching is going remote. While that will that help or hurt online teaching, learning? Third, how to shift to remote learning affects students, instructors, and colleges. Fourth, how will pass and fail affect student future? Fifth, there is a analysis test which states that colleges will lose 20% of the students. With this fear in my mind, I think we have got the right person with us today. And in this scenario, Dr. Prabodh Chobe is the right person to guide to teachers and researchers what role to play. He's not only an academician when I went through his biodata, but a music lover and also very social being. His biodata reads to the amount of contribution he has to education. Every minute of his life, he has been using it fruitfully. We are always of the opinion that we are short of time, but Dr. Chobe should be the looked upon person, and I request Dr. Chobe to add on at the end the utilization of time. I once again welcome the chief guest, Dr. Chobe, for this session and all the delegates who has made it fruitful. Without you, this session wouldn't have been success. I welcome all of you once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Always you are the source of inspiration and guidance for every one of us. With your support only, this kind of a webinar is possible for all of us. Thank you so much for giving your opening remarks. Now, may I kindly request Dr. Santosh Singh, who is with us, the IQSC coordinator and coordinator of Department of IT, to please give us the brief introduction of today's speaker, Dr. Prabodh Chobe. Dr. Santosh Singh.
Good morning, all of you. On behalf of Thakur College of Science and Commerce and as a IQC coordinator, I welcome all of you but for this webinar series, national webinar series, in which we have eminent personality like Dr. Chobe, Dr. Saxena, Dr. Thakur. As a part of IQSC here, we have taken a lot of initiatives for skill enhancement program, for a quality education, for conducting various environmental issues, for women empowerment, and we are doing a lot of things for this skill enhancement and quality issue in this area. Talking about, we have a speaker like Dr. Prabodh Chaube here. That I'm very much sure here the timing is going to be less when I have seen his detailed resume. But some of the brief things which I can make out here with his resume. He has done a graduation from IIT Mumbai since in 1978, a PhD from State University New York in 1985 in organometallic chemistry. He taught 2 years for State University New York. He has worked for 25 years in BASF, that is world largest and most admired multinational chemical company. He worked as a senior general manager and head of BASF R&D Center and retired in 2014. Uh, his research area was organometallic chemistry, synthesis, catalyst, agrochemical, pharmaceutical, natural products, polymer, dyes, plastic, and many other different areas. Post-retirement, Sir was the regional director for a prestigious university for a 3-year tenure. Sir was also instrumental to spread innovation culture and mentor in a Nehru Science Center. So far, Sir has interacted over 360 colleges and schools across India to spread innovation culture. Sir was also given training for a police officer workshop at Central Academy, Bhopal, and so far, Sir has trained 180 officers from all over India in a 5 workshops. Sir was also instrumental and played a key role in a success of a science press express train, which covered approximately 25 lakh people and covered 52 destinations across India in 1 year. During his tenure in a BSF, Sir initiated a very successful science uh, execution program for a kids lab, which attracted over 50,000 students across India. Sir is on a various editorial board. Sir is also faculty selection committee, a member of faculty selection committee, advisory committee, and external referee for a PhD and MSc thesis. As Madam has mentioned, Sir is also, apart from his core area, he is a music lover. He is a swimmer, and since last 55 years, Sir is swimming continuously. That is something a remarkable achievement here. Like how Sir is also taking care of his fitness. He has been awarded as a prestigious award of Utkrisht Wangmay Nirmiti Puraskar from a Chief Minister of Maharashtra for his excellent contribution in a Marathi literature. That is something add-on area, a value addition in a Sir resume. In 2019, a Thane Marathi Granthalaya uh, awarded Sir a state level Puraskar for his contribution in a literature. So far, Sir has authored six number of books and more than he has written 600 articles. Uh, and there are a lot of things in his, so I'm very much sure here, I'm sort of time here with reference to Sir resume. But today we have with us such an eminent personality, and I'm very much sure all the participants, you will have a fruitful session ahead. Thank you very much, sir, for joining here our national webinar series. And I invite you now. You can continue with your talk. Thank you very much, sir. Over to you, Chaube, sir.
Okay, thank you all the organizers. Thank you to Principal Madam, and good morning to all the participants. Let me start with my presentation. Just give me a second. I will open the. Just give me 1 second for the technical things.
Yes, yes.
Before we proceed with the session, a small announcement to all the participants. Kindly keep your video switch off to avoid any bandwidth problem. It's a kind request that please, every one of you, please switch off your video mode to avoid any bandwidth problem. And now may I kindly request Dr. Chobe to please proceed.
If they switch off the video, then they may not be able to see the slides.
No, they can see,
No,
sir.
sir, they can see the slides, sir.
They'll be
Okay.
able to see, but
You
their
have
video
to,
should be.
you have to share the screen, sir. They can see the slides. Okay. Fine. Okay, let me start with the presentation. Once again, good morning to all of you. In the next 55 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about empowering India, the role of teachers and researchers. As I was introduced just a few minutes ago, you must have realized I'm not a teacher by profession. I'm a basically industrial researcher throughout my career. However, I have very keen interest and passion for teaching, and I've been doing it for last 40 years at various places, right from my student days in State University of New York, and even recently with all my lectures and seminars and workshops at almost 360 colleges across India. So that way I am connected with the teaching community, and in that capacity I'm going to talk based on my personal experience in the teaching and research. Now what I'm not going to talk, let me clarify right in the beginning. Don't expect that I'm going to load you with a lot of figures and graphs and pie charts showing research figures and funding. I'm not going to tell you about which softwares and platforms are available for online teaching. I'm not going to tell you how many students are using online platforms today. I'm not telling about pros and cons of direct teaching versus online teaching. Is Corona effective for Corona effect going to last for 18 months? No, I'm not going to talk on those things. Should our education system change drastically? No, I'm not going to talk on these things because I think these are the topics you must be reading a lot in the newspapers and web and webinars, etc., etc. So basically what I'm going to talk is you as a teacher, because I understand almost 85% of the audience today is college professors. And so you as a teacher are not a decision maker, but your role is to mold education system and students so that they come out as best graduates and our country prospers. That is the main aim of my presentation. And as a teacher, what should I do to empower my students and thereby empower India? This question also I'm going to address. And what is my, as a teacher, responsibility? These are the points I'm going to address in my webinar today. See, as a researcher, I always jot down what is the end result or what is the ultimate aim. So ultimate aim is prosperous and empowered India. Once we know what is the ultimate aim and what is the end result, we go backwards. Now, in order to make India prosperous and empowered, there are various points, various actions to be taken. Number one is planning, which is done by planning team and government. Money it is taken care by another team, infrastructure, industry, food and agriculture, education and HRD. All these things, there are teams in India to take care. However, you as a teacher, you have the most important role, and that is delivery of best education, guiding and motivating students. And that is really commendable role you are playing, you as teachers. And how to do the best in this role, which let us see. Now,
Thomas, sir,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. Please share your screen and show your PPT. Share your screen.
Sir, in
pose,
you have share screen, share content. You have to click on that.
Okay, is this okay?
Sir, do you have sir PPT?
Yeah, this is my PPT.
Girish Tere sir.
No,
Girish Tere sir, do
I
you have sir PPT?
Sir has sent me, but even sir
So
can
you
share it.
Na? You share from.
Okay.
Yeah, you share it, na sir.
otherwise, Santosh is speaking well. Let him speak. We are getting the points. It's no problem if the PPT is not shared. Let him continue.
Okay, is the PPT visible to all of you? Hello.
Sir, it is not
Is
visible
the
as you have to share the content.
yes. Hello, is PPT visible to everybody? And
Sir,
I'm
it is not.
visible? No, sir.
You are visible, sir. You can continue with
On
your
my
talk, sir.
PPT is not visible. I think it should be visible because that is
Sir,
quite
no.
important.
Yeah, visible.
Okay. So, sir, it is we are sharing from our side. You can continue with your talk, sir. And whenever it is coming to next slide, you can just instruct next slide, sir.
Okay, okay.
So we
Can
are
you
sharing
show
from
me,
our side. Yeah.
can you show me your screen then?
You can see, sir, the screen.
Okay. So let us see the requirement of our ultimate aim. It is properly educated and motivated manpower. Let us see the word one by one. Word educated. When I mean, okay, let me go to the
No,
slide
sir.
before
हाँ,
that.
बोला, sir.
Let us see, is it visible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Let us take the word manpower. When we talk of manpower, India has no problem. We have almost 1.3 billion people, and that is a plus point, that is an advantage. If you can really properly educate and motivate these people, then we can really march ahead in the world. So manpower is a very important thing which we have abundant. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Should I move the slide or somebody is going to do it?
Sir,
Sir, it can it will
already.
better.
I can do it from here. However, I'm not sure whether people are able to see the slide.
Yes, sir. We can see. Go ahead,
Okay,
sir.
so should I move the slide?
Yes,
I
sir.
can
Yeah.
do it from here. Okay. Okay, now let us, this is visible now? Okay. Now the next word is properly educated. Educated is a very tricky word. If you really see the statistics, India has the second largest educated population. When I mean educated, graduates, postgraduates, doctorates, etc. When we used to look for research proposals all over the globe, we used to always say that India is the second largest English speaking scientific manpower. Not only scientific manpower, but in terms of the other manpower also, India has the highest number of, second largest number of educated people. But that is where the problem is. What does education mean? Does education means only a degree certificate? That is where the problem starts. We have several universities where the education is not really given in the real sense, but degree certificates are given. And students expect that now they are graduates, so their expectations start rising. But in reality, they are not really up to the mark. And this is where the problem starts. I remember during my industry days, whenever I needed manpower, we used to advertise initially in the newspapers. And I used to get thousands of applications. And after going through those applications, hardly 30, 40 students could be shortlisted for interview. After interviewing all of them, hardly one person could be given a job, may or may not be. That was the kind of statistics about, I would say, 20, 25 years back. Slowly it improved. It is improving, but it is nowhere close to the developed countries in the world. And that is why the word educated is a very tricky word here. and that is where we have to do a lot of work. The next word, okay, for example, are people really interested in learning? When I say educated, that has something to do with learning. And yes, when I say that people are not really very well educated, but their will to learn is really high. I'll give you an experience from the Science Express days. When we went for the first round of Science Express in 2008, we stopped at 52 stations. And you can see from this photograph, is photographs visible to all of you? Are the photographs visible?
No, sir.
No? Slides are not visible.
Sir, we are at a slide that is motivated to learn, confident, dedicated of the task assigned. So you can instruct here from this slide, that is a motivated manpower slide. And from now onwards, you can instruct, so slide can be
go backwards.
Go back.
Yeah.
Sir, let us first of all synchronize the slide and then you can give the instruction.
Okay, but
Hello, sir.
Tere sir,
okay.
go back to the previous slide.
Attend.
Go back to the slide where railway stations are there.
Sir, त्यांचे PPT share नाही केले त्यांनी.
Pardon?
Sir,
Okay,
this is your, Tere sir, this PPT you are operating, na?
Wait.
Yeah, please give the same PPT to me for sharing. There is
Okay. Just
share
can I
his screen
interpret?
with me.
Tere sir, just a minute. Chobe sir,
Huh.
on your screen there is a green icon, share screen.
No, that has disappeared. It was there earlier. Now the
Sir,
icon doesn't exist.
Sir, check whether the co-host.
I'm trying.
Just a minute. Tere sir,
Yes, sir. He is co-host.
he's a co-host, then it has to be there.
Yes, it has to be there.
It was there before I started my speech.
So please check it once again.
Yeah, I'm checking.
Just click on a mouse on a
Okay.
screen.
Now I got a share screen icon.
Yeah,
Yes.
click on that.
Okay.
So click on
Now I
that.
can see the slideshow.
Yeah, and now you can open your document, PPT.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Now
it is
it is opening, sir. Yes.
Just wait. Yeah, perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Make it full screen, sir, please.
Now this is, I made it full
Yes.
screen now.
Perfect, sir. Perfect. You can continue
Sure.
from here, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Sorry, this is technical hitch. Anyway, and now hereafter we'll move smooth. During the Science Express days, I realized that 25 lakh people from all over India attended the Science Express. They were not only students, they were students, teachers, laymen, farmers, workers, everybody was there, right from age group 5 to age group 85. And every station, as you see in this photograph, it used to be crowded, miles long queue. At the end of this entire round, I started thinking, on one hand, we say people don't have interest in learning. And here, 25 lakh people were making crowd at each station to make sure that they want to see what is nanotechnology, what is biotechnology, what is space science. Farmers wanted to see that, workers wanted to see that, old people wanted to see that. So that shows that people definitely have curiosity and will to learn. Only we are not able to deliver what they want. This is what lessons I learned, and that's how I started doing certain programs in future so that people can benefit. Now let us come to the word properly educated. We talked about manpower, we talked about motivated, we talked about educated. Now we're talking about properly educated. What is meaning of properly educated? I'm showing a picture of Linus Pauling. I think you must be knowing Linus Pauling. Linus Pauling was known as the second most intelligent person of last century. Number one was, of course, Albert Einstein, and Pauling was always known as the number 2 in the world. What is so special about Linus Pauling, and why I'm sharing his picture in terms of educational rules flexibility in the educational rules. The story is Linus Pauling was very bright. He loved physics, chemistry, math, but, big but, he never liked history. So much so that he always failed history tests. So much so that he never got his 12th higher secondary certification. He never passed 12th. Now imagine Linus Pauling, suppose he was born in India, what would have happened? If he failed 12th, his parents would have poked him, probably would have committed suicide, that I'm not really fit for living. The society would have looked down at him. Everybody, the teachers, everybody, employers, everybody would have looked down at him. Hey, you can't even pass 12th, you can't even pass history. But he was in a different society where educational system was quite flexible, rules were quite flexible. And since he was very bright in science subjects like physics, maths, and chemistry, he continued with his education, did his bachelor's, master's, PhD, not only completed his PhD, but started doing a lot of original research. He got 2 Nobel Prizes during his lifetime for 2 different subjects. When he got his second Nobel Prize, not even first, when he got his second Nobel Prize, his school teacher was so ashamed, his school principal was so ashamed, they invited him as a chief guest in their school and handed over his 12th certificate to him. So can you imagine, this is what can happen if there is a flexibility in the education rules. The first thing what we have to go, definitely we have possibility of flexibility in the education rules. The last few years, the universities and UGC has definitely gone in for it. Students can choose elective subjects, but there is not so much flexibility like in case of Linus Pauling that you can fail and still continue with your higher education. I think if that kind of flexibility is brought into our educational system by our teachers and principals and educationalists, definitely there will be merit, and people like Linus Pauling who are really bright in one subject but really can't cope up with other subjects will do really good. Next, I am going to talk about the holistic approach. There are various points about this. Number one, it is a quality of universities that is very important. You must have seen Kasturi Rangan committee report, excellent document. And this report, if it is really implemented in its totality, it will change our education system. And tough rules have to be made. And to be very frank, there are rules in place. Only problem is the implementation of those rules is a problem. So if we implement these rules and the committee report, then I think the quality of universities will definitely change. Quality of colleges is another thing. The purpose of education, is it only certificates? When I was working with, post my retirement, 39 months, I worked with a university as a regional director. And I was shocked to see students calling me, sir, can I get a degree within 1 month? This is the type of questions students ask. And I think this is definitely not welcome. There are very good universities and very good colleges all over India. They should make an effort that all universities and colleges should be at par. They should be at the same level. Third thing is exam system. Total reforms in the exam system are necessary. I'm not going to talk much about it because tomorrow's speaker is really experienced in this and he will have authority to talk on this subject. But I personally think there has to be a lot of changes in the exam system. Why exams are there, first of all, that should be questioned. Exams are there to test your knowledge, or is it just memorization? That should be answered. A real good exam system has to be found. Then only students can do very well. They will find interest in learning. Teaching methods is another thing. Simplifying the subject, teaching that creates interest, teaching that sparks the concept of innovation and out of the box thinking. These are the needs of the day. And all teachers have to go for this. At the end of my presentation, I'm going to show you a to-do list what we should do. So what I'm going to discuss, I'm going to summarize it at the end. But these are very important things about the teaching method. Let me show you a photograph of a very small car. And I've written there latent heat of fusion. What the car has to do with latent heat of fusion? Those of you who are physicists or experts in thermodynamics or thermodynamic chemistry, they will know that when they teach latent heat of fusion, students just memorize it without understanding. Like when I learned latent heat of fusion, I didn't understand anything out of it. Yes, we teach them it is something to do with melting point. When you take a solid and heat it at particular point, the temperature does not rise, and then that is the point latent heat of fusion is given and the solid melts. We don't understand. We just memorize it like a parrot. But if we show, there are so many real life examples which can clarify the point. For example, this particular car was kept during German year in India in 2012 and 2013. This car was kept at 5 different locations for 2 weeks each, like Mumbai, Madras, Hyderabad, Delhi, Kolkata, etc. And there are so many special things about the car. I'm not going into details about the car, like based on solar cell, etc. Only thing what I'm going to talk is about this latent heat of fusion in teaching how this car will help. For example, the seat of this car, the steering wheel of this car, and the dashboard of this car is coated with some very special micro capsules. These are micro tiny capsules which can be seen only through microscope, and the capsules contain low melting waxes, mixture of low melting waxes. So what happens if the car is kept in hot sun, like in India? Usually what happens if we keep our car in very hot sun, afterward we really can't sit in the car. The seat is so hot, the steering wheel is so hot, we can't touch it. The dashboard is very hot. But in this car, everything remains cool because the heat of the sun is taken by these microcapsules coated on the seat and dashboard and the steering wheel. And the heat is utilized to melt the wax. So temperature does not rise. And this is exactly the latent heat of fusion. So if we can give such kind of examples when we are teaching, our teaching will be really appreciated. Students can really find interest in the subject they are learning. And these days, with the invent of internet and Google and all that, so many examples in almost all the subjects are available to make teaching interesting. I just gave one example, but there are so many examples in almost all the topics, and the use of these examples is very, very essential. This is another example of particle in a box. When students go to 11th or 12th standard, they learn a theory called particle in a box in physics and chemistry also. And they are told that, you know, there is a box which contains a gas particle, gas molecule, and the molecule bumps from one wall to another wall. And the students are asked to derive the velocity of the particle and the acceleration of the particle, blah, blah, blah. Students don't understand anything, but they have to get good marks in 12th. So they have to memorize all the entire derivation, etc. But if we tell them what is the application of this particle in a box, I'm sure students will love this. They think this is totally dry and theoretical subject known as statistical physics. But if such applications are told to them, they will start taking interest. The application of this particle in a box, scientists are working on crowd management. They are, like in the photograph, it is shown that it's a crowd, maybe for some function or meeting or whatever may be the reason. And this is like a box, and each head is like a particle. So scientists have tried to find out the movement of these people, how they can go, if there is a stampede, if there is a problem, if there is an emergency exit has to be opened, what will happen? And scientists are trying to find out a solution using this particle in a box method. So moment students learn, hey, whatever dry subject I'm learning has some application in my life, they start loving this subject. I've seen this with many students. Let us come to the next word in this our phrase, that is motivated. I talked about manpower, I talked about educated, I talked about properly educated. Now let us see motivated. When I mean motivated, motivated to learn, confident, dedicated to the task assigned, and having patience. There are many qualities come under motivated. Let us see few things. I'm not going to discuss about every subtopic. I'm going to show you a photograph of John Bardeen. He was a very well-known physicist in 1950s and 1960s. He was in charge of the Bell Laboratory in New Jersey. His most important inventions, number one, it is the invention of transistor. Today, entire world is dependent on transistors. Each computer chip contains crores of transistors. In fact, the computer and IT revolution is because of transistors. Can you imagine if the original computer, which was made up of glass walls, if that was the case, we could have never thought about laptops or small wristwatch computers or IT revolution or internet. And the entire credit of IT revolution goes to this John Bardeen. Another important invention of John Bardeen was the application of that second theory of John Bardeen goes to the maglev train in China. I remember when I used to go to Shanghai in earlier days, it used to take me 2 hours to travel from city center to Shanghai airport in the traffic. Today, with maglev train, it takes exactly 8 minutes to travel this distance. And this is based on the physics principle superconductivity. John Bardeen, the credit goes to John Bardeen again. So these two most important inventions which changed the world are from John Bardeen. Now why I'm showing his photograph in terms of motivation, I'll come to you. In 1956, when John Bardeen came out with the transistor innovation, he got the Nobel Prize. You know how the Nobel Prize is given? It is given on 10th of December, that is the birthday of Alfred Nobel. And it is given by King of Sweden. And John Bardeen, along with his family, was invited on 9th of December for a dinner with the king. And 10th was the Nobel Prize ceremony. He had a daughter and 2 sons and wife. 2 sons could not join because they were in a college in United States and they could not join because of maybe the studies or exams, whatever. So at the dinner table, King VI Gustav of Sweden asked John Bardeen, "Sir, I know the invention of transistor is going to be very important in the world. Have you not brought your 2 sons for such a wonderful presentation today and the Nobel Award ceremony? Why didn't you bring them?" John Bardeen replied, he bowed in front of the king and said, "Your Majesty, next time when I get Nobel Prize, I'll definitely bring all my children." What a confidence. And yes, within 16 years, he did a research on a totally different topic in physics, that is superconductivity, as I told you, the maglev train, etc. And that topic. And he got a second Nobel Prize in 1972. And he was invited again. Luckily, the same 6th Gustav was in the throne. And he bowed in front of 6th Gustav on 9th December 1972 at the dinner table and asked him, "Your Majesty, do you remember I promised you 16 years back that I will bring my entire family when I get my second Nobel Prize? I have brought my entire family today." What a confidence this person had. So I think we have to tell all these stories and develop confidence in our students. Teaching is not only putting something in a bag or putting something in a sack and completing the syllabus. I think such anecdotes, such stories, that completes the teaching. Then only students find it interesting. Then they take interest in research. Then they take interest in everything. Then they become real asset for our country. And this is very important. Let me come to my next slide. This is Werner Forssmann, a doctor who did tremendous work on circulatory system, that is heart, blood circulation, etc. Before him, yes, a lot of things were known about circulatory system, but it was not known how the valves in the veins work, how many compartments are there in the heart, how the blood flows from one compartment to another compartment, why it flows from one compartment to another compartment. Many things were unclear. Dr. Werner Forsman worked on all these things, first on the animals, then he worked on dead bodies. But in order to find out certain secrets, like how the walls work, why the walls are there in the veins, how the compartments in the heart work, why there are compartments, how much blood flows from one compartment to another. For that, it was necessary to cut open a living human being. Now, who will volunteer for such things? Nobody will volunteer, I know. So, should we give up research? No. That is where the commitment of Dr. Werner Forsman came. He cut open his own arm, the the vein in his arm, inserted a 75 centimeter, 3/4 meter long metal tube inside his heart, poured a colored fluorescent dye in his heart, and walked up to X-ray wala's dispensary, got his X-ray done when the colored blood was circulating. What a commitment to work. He knew that he may die in this attempt, but this is dedication, this is commitment, and this is what our students should learn. Then only they can really learn, then they are really educated. Otherwise, just getting a degree and asking that, sir, can I get a degree within 1 month, is not education. Now, another role of teachers is not only to complete syllabus, it is proper career guidance and proper exposure to soft skills. Actually, students are complete only when they get career guidance and proper exposure to soft skills. So the overall development of students, many colleges do that, many schools also do that, but at the same time, there are many colleges and schools where these things are not done, or if done, it is just for the namesake. I think there has to be a uniform standard across India if we really want to empower our students, because this is very important. Without career guidance and without soft skills, students don't have any direction. Just degree is not a direction, and that is the role of our teachers, and we all should make sure that we find time. See, many of us say that I don't have time, I have to complete my syllabus. Let us look at the current scenario. Today, the doctors, nurses, even the bus drivers, ambulance drivers, police, they have dedicated themselves to stop the corona spreading. Many police officers are today in really shambles because of coronavirus, but they are doing it as their responsibility, as their duty. So we as teachers also have to do all these extra things, which are not extra, which is part of our job. Now I'm coming to innovation and education. All the schools and all the colleges have science project competitions every year. Then the projects are selected for zonal level, regional level, national level, etc., etc., etc. I go as a judge for many such competitions. Yes, there are very good exhibits also, no doubt. But majority of the exhibits are something mundane. Copy paste from computer, not even by students. Mostly student is busy with his classes, so parents do the copy pasting and stick it on a thermocol, and that's the end of project because deadline has to be met. But what is really expected of this project? The government wants that the innovation culture should develop. This is a photograph. This is not an actual photograph of the girl who invented, but I'm just telling a story. So I just took a picture of something. But in a school, I don't remember which state it is, few years back, a second standard girl came out with a very bright idea. She came to her principal, madam, I got a very bright idea. Principal madam said, what is the bright idea? She said, come, I'll show you. She took the principal outside the toilet room. Outside toilet room, usually every school and colleges, they have some 3 or 4 taps, drinking water taps at the same height. And she told madam, see how short I am, just a second standard girl, and how tall the taps are. I can't drink water. If I start drinking, the water spills on my uniform, as you see in this picture. This is what happens to the small children. And same college, same school, there are 11th and 12th students are also there. When they start drinking, they have to bend down and again their clothes get wet. I have a solution for this. Principal madam said, hey baby, tell me what is the solution? The girl said, the second standard girl, remember, she said, madam, why do you have all the 4 taps at the same level? Can't we have one tap at say 2 feet, second tap at 2.5 feet, third tap at 3 feet, and fourth tap at 3.5 feet? Then everybody, depending upon their height, can drink water very easily without spilling it on the clothes. Really bright idea. This idea was put as a science project and the girl got innovation award. This is what is expected out of the innovation project competition. Unfortunately, we teachers don't tell our students what is really expected. We just tell them deadline, next week, Monday, 11 o'clock, your project should be there. And then you know what happens. So it is teachers' role and parents' role to educate our children and make sure that the innovation culture cultivates. Innovation does not necessarily depend on education. This is what I'm stressing again and again. Education has nothing to do with innovation. Innovation is just a state of mind. This is a photograph of the person who invented Xerox machine. And below that, you will see the first Xerox copy dated 22nd October 1938, Astoria. This is the first Xerox copy in the world. Now, who was this person? His name is Carlson. Was he a scientist, engineer? No, he was a lawyer in a court. And in those days, there was no copying machine, no Xerox machine. So most of the time, these lawyers had to write down the paper. If some client comes and he has to make copies of the paper, the lawyer will sit for hours and write, just writing and copying. This Carlson was fed up of this job. He said, I should invent something. I should innovate something which will change the world. But his lawyer education was not sufficient for that. So he learned physics, he learned static electricity, chemistry, because in Xerox machine, you know, all these things do play a role. The powder is there, which is coated, and there is a static electricity generated, blah, blah, blah. So he made so many experiments in his mother-in-law's bathroom. There were so many explosions. And once, in fact, his mother-in-law threw him out of the house, but he continued and finally came out with this first Xerox machine in the world, which you can see in this photograph in 1938. So again, education and innovation are two different things. Don't think I'll get a PhD and I'll be a great innovator. Not necessarily. The second standard girl can have an innovation and win an innovation award. Carlson, a lawyer who was just writing whole life, can innovate Xerox machine and the world can change. One third example, this person, he invented what is known as Velcro. We all use Velcro for our shoes and purses and whatnot. Velcro is something, you know, which makes noise and your two things are tied together. He was an ordinary farmer, no formal education. Once he went for hunting with his dog in winter days, and there was a plant like this on the way. The seeds, horny seeds of this plant were stuck on his dog's hair, but not a single seed was sticking on his woolen jacket. He was surprised. I have hairs on my jacket. I have hairs on my dog. Why the seeds are sticking only to dog's hair and not on my jacket, not on my coat? Kept on thinking for almost 1 week. Ordinary farmer, no education, no formal education. And finally came to know, he brought a lens and looked at the seed. There is a hook-like thing at the end of the thorn. So the hooks are getting entangled with the dog's curly hair, but the coat hair, jacket hair are not so curly, so they are not getting entangled. So what? I found out the reason. How can I utilize, how can I use this somewhere for application? And he came out with the world's first Velcro. He took a cloth, stitched hooks on it, took second cloth, stitched loops on it, entangled hooks on loops. That was world's first Velcro. Then he modified, and finally he became industrialist to manufacture Velcro. Today, all over the world, the amount, the length of Velcro that is manufactured is from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, almost 2,000, 3,000 kilometers per day. He became one of the richest persons, Velcro manufacturer. And this is innovation. So again, innovation has nothing to do with education. And this is the point we teachers have to stress on our students, that have an innovative mind. We have to have so many exercises, competitions, and quizzes so that students set up, students have innovative mindset. Unfortunately, in India, fortunately or unfortunately, for many, many years and decades, we were busy in backward integration. That is a plus point. Today, we can manufacture anything very cheap because we have experience in backward integration. But as far as coming out with a totally new product, totally new innovation, we are weak. It is changing. Government is playing lot of importance in the last 10 years. We are changing, but it will take some time. So teachers have a big responsibility of developing innovation culture and innovation mindset, innovative mindset in the students' minds. This next photograph is Ronald Ross. Why I'm showing this photograph is many of us always give excuses that, I can't do research in India. Unfortunately, in India, there is not much money. There is none of facilities are not available. So that's why I can't do research. I should go abroad, then I can do great research. This is an excuse. Yes, I know that funding is required, sophisticated equipment is required, but basically innovative mindset and willpower, that is most important. If you don't have that, no matter where you work, you cannot innovate. You cannot do anything new. Ronald Ross was an Indian legally. He was born in India to British parents. He worked in India in the medical team of British military. And in that sense, he was a true Indian. And he is the person who found out the secret of malaria, how malaria is spread because of mosquitoes. He found out the secret. I'm not going into details, but what I'm stressing is he had no support from anybody. He was working in military and he did his malaria research purely out of his passion, outside his office hours, on the weekends, in the evenings, etc. His bosses never supported it because that was not his official agenda. He never had a funding, no internet, no connection to the libraries in London where he could get the latest news about malaria research. In India, there were no journals available easily. But still, about 125 years back, he did excellent research and he found out the reason why malaria is spread, and he found out how the mosquito life cycle works, etc., etc., etc. So this is the answer, that funding and resources is definitely important, but at the same time, like Ronald Ross, his only resource was a rusted microscope. That's it, a rusted microscope. He did entire research. So we should not give up that I don't have funding. We should use our innovation, come out with innovation for our country. And this is the culture the teachers have to cultivate when they teach in the colleges. Now, coming to the Corona. During Corona and after Corona, there will be a lot of changes in the teaching methodologies, research methodologies. After Corona, there will be definitely a benefit to the teaching community and research community. We are unitedly fighting against Corona because it is a question of our survival. And so should we teachers fight against evils in our academics, because that is a question of survival of our country. There are so many evils in our academics that we should unitedly fight and make sure that our academic system is at par with the topmost countries in the world. That is possible. Second thing, after Corona, the teaching methodologies will change. There may be a lot of online teaching. So many methods will be there. For example, if you have read, China is using, depending upon the availability and type of students they have. They are using TV broadcasting, mobile apps, online teaching, some physical teaching, classroom teaching. All these combinations are used in China. And for these new technologies, hand holding is required. There are many colleges who are well versed with these technologies, and they should do it as their responsibility. Hand holding of other colleges, other teachers. There should be training sessions done by the colleges who are familiar with this thing. There should be lot of training given to the faculty who are not aware of this thing. For example, people are not aware about using TV or LMS, that is learning management system. Actually, learning management systems existed for almost half a decade or more. Many schools are using it. Some people are using. When I was teaching to the police officers in Bhopal, I started introducing this, and people were not aware of this, and they really appreciated this thing. They can use it in their day-to-day applications. There are so many apps available, and people can use it for non-classroom teaching. And there, the hand-holding and seminars and training will be very important. In future, we can't stop because Corona, as per World Health Organization, is going to stay for some time. Hopefully, there very soon there will be some kind of inoculation, something will be found, but it may be 18 months. That's what they say. So we can't stop. We can't just give video lectures. What about practicals? So we have to gear up for virtual practicals. One teacher demonstrating the dissection, one teacher demonstrating the workshop in the engineering, one teacher demonstrating the chemical reactions, and students observing without social distancing problems, etc., etc., or from home if there is a worst case scenario. So we have to gear up for this. For that, lot of training will be required, innovation will be required, ingenuity will be required, out of the box thinking will be required, hand holding will be required. Experience sharing will be very important in the next half year or so, because the colleges which get experience of such methodologies, they have to share it. Otherwise, other colleges cannot be at par with them. There is going to be another change. Now, online courses will be there. Even the top universities have started some online courses. So there is no bar on the classroom capacity. Admissions can become easier. You have to wait and see. So there may not be a rat race that I have to crack this, enter into this college or this thing. More students can get admitted. This will be a boon. Employment selection procedure will also change, because employers will not depend on your college degree or marks. Actually, using the Corona as a catalyst, we have to change all these practices. Actually, employment should not depend on the final year marks or anything. It should depend on the overall performance of the past 10, 15 years of the student. Every year, every semester marks have to be seen to see the progress of the student. Then only we get a real picture. Otherwise, there are students, there are people who just somehow manage. That should not happen. We have to change the entire system, make it foolproof. Then only the country will benefit. Now, post-Corona, what will be the research scenario? Lot of things are unclear, but companies and research laboratories have started gearing. I told you about practicals, online demonstrations. Then non-laboratory part can be done from home. Already many companies have started their R&D activities from home. The literature search, report writing, all these things are happening from home. Then there are many simulations available. In India, there are many groups, many professors who are well versed in theoretical sciences. They have simulators where you can simulate certain practicals, you can simulate certain research activities, and these professors will have a lot of demand now. Use of modeling. There are many, for example, chemical reactions. Since I come from chemical industry, I know many chemical industries do modeling. You don't have to actually carry out the reactions. Modeling can give you an answer. So you don't have to go to the laboratory physically. On computer, you can do modeling and come out with answer. Only when it comes to the final stage, you have to do the real experiment to say check. Even the safety aspects can be checked online. There are many safety programs available where you do a minute reaction with a small scale and other safety aspects can be extrapolated. Such softwares are available for almost 1 decade or more all over the world, including India. We have used it in the past. There is another scope for micro reactions. Micro reactions are now taught even in schools. All of you must be aware of micro reactions, and that can be run simultaneously. Usually, when you are coming out with a new research, many reactions have to be done. But with the current restrictions, how to go to the laboratory and do reactions? So students are so the people can do a lot of practical. Uh, just a minute, there is a technical problem. I'll just solve it. Okay, sorry about the interruption. So micro reactions is one possibility where we can do many reactions on a very micro scale and then extrapolate from that the final result. So this is possible during this corona and post-corona. So the message is change, focus, and speed. If we change, we can pop up and can really do something great for our country. If we focus, we can do something great for our country. And if we have the speed, we can still do something great for our country. So this should be our aim: change, focus, and speed. Now I'm coming to my last slide. This is action plan. These are the various actions I discussed during the last 15 hours or so. Properly educate your students, expose them to out of the box thinking, motivate your students. Career guidance and soft skills is very important. Expose them to innovation. Tell your students that excellent research can be done with minimum facilities. Virtual teaching and training, experience sharing and handholding is very important. Change, focus, and speed. And how is it possible? Again, learn a lesson from Corona about chain reaction. In Corona, we learned about a chain reaction. If we break the chain, Corona will disappear. On the contrary, if we make a chain, we can do something great in our teaching and research. We have to form a chain. Now you are about 500 to 1000 faculty members listening to my lecture. I think if you form your chain and if you transmit what the key points of my lecture to another one person each, the chain propagation will start. 1000 can make it 2000, 2000 can make it 4000, 8000, 16,000, and we can empower India in terms of teaching and research. Finally, I'll show you one slide. This is a picture of Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar. He was former head of CSIR, that is the main research body of Government of India. He came from a very poor family in Mumbai, and he was telling a story of his childhood. When he was in 3rd standard, his science teacher in the vernacular medium, in those days the vernacular medium science teachers used to wear dhoti and Gandhi cap, etc. So his science teacher took all these small children to playground. The teacher had brought one convex lens with him. The teacher focused the sun's rays on a piece of paper, and the paper started burning without matchsticks. This small Raghunath and the entire audience of 3rd standard students were surprised, like a magic show. Without matchsticks, the just a minute. Without matchstick, the teacher could light the paper. And Kshitish,
Dear spectators, I think there is some technical problem because of which the sir is not in a position to connect. By the time he's going to connect, let's review quickly what he has said in his entire presentation, that we teachers, we need to focus upon the innovations, creativity and research. Research is going to be the keyword which is going to talk about the scenario in post-COVID situation. We need to talk about the e-learning, blended e-learning, the virtual methods, which is against the traditional methods, and always there is a fear that how we are going to cope up with the modern methods and technologies, because many of the times the students are much more awaited, students are much more knowledgeable than what the teacher is all about. So we need to have the training and we have to go ahead with these kind of modern technologies. Post COVID is going to teach us that how unitedly with hand in hand we are going to work together. I think this is what we have gathered from the entire session from Dr. Prabodh Chobe. And now we are waiting for Sir to join back again because he's going to conclude his session. So kindly stay with us.
हाँ बोला सर हाँ बोला बोला
Sir is joining back within a minute. He got disconnected actually.
dear spectators, this is what is a technical problem all the time we face. And this is just a small technical problem which has arisen. Sir is got disconnected. He is going to join us in a short while. As I told you earlier that we have done the quick review of what sir has done the presentation. And sir is going to join back and he is going to give us the main focus points that what exactly we are expected to do. So kindly stay in tune with us so that we are going to listen to Dr. Prabodh Chobe, who is a very eminent person and who is the expert in the field to talk about this kind of a topic. We are hoping that sir is going to join back very soon. So kindly stay tuned.
Okay, now I'm there.
Yeah, you are there. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, please. Vinit, sir.
Hello.
Vinit, sir.
I
Please,
I
go.
think
Yeah,
yeah,
go
we
ahead.
have got Chobe sir back. So again, welcome Chobe sir, and you can please continue with the session. May I kindly request Chobe sir to please continue?
Okay.
Sir, please share your screen.
Uh,
Okay, I'm not sure if the
no
last
problem.
slide was audible to you and visible to you. So I'm repeating the last slide, the Dr. Mashelkar story. This teacher,
Sir,
science
sir,
teacher of Dr. Mashelkar
sir,
took
please
these
share your
children.
screen. Share your screen, sir, first.
Hello, is that audible?
Sir, go ahead. No problem. Go
Okay,
ahead. We have
okay.
seen the slide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So the science teacher took these children to the playground and showed that the paper can burn with sun's energy. And Dr. Mashelkar and all the children was really thrilled. And what Dr. Mashelkar said that he learned two things from this experiment, whatever his teacher showed him. Number one, he learned that if lens can have such a great power to concentrate the sun energy, then science will definitely have much more power. And second thing, what Dr. Mashelkar said he learned is that if I focus my entire energy on a given task, I can do miracles in my life. I think this is what a small science teacher of third standard taught a great mind like Dr. Mashelkar. So our role as teachers, whether we are science teachers or commerce or arts, is to shape our students, and that responsibility we will definitely fulfill. My last slide, this is my email address. If you wish to contact me, wish to ask me any questions or anything, I'm always available. We'll be very glad to answer you. And always believe that Corona will go by breaking the chains. And always believe that we teachers will empower India by making a change. Let us share with each other. Let us hold hands. Let us share our experiences and teach each other. Let us make our nation a proud nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your very, very informative lecture. And as you have correctly said that the research and the role of the teacher is going to play a very, very key role in the post-COVID situation, not only for India, but the entire higher education sector of the world. Thank you so much for making yourself available for this session. And now may I kindly request Dr. Shashikant Asgekar, the Vice Principal of Thakur College of Science and Commerce, Faculty of Science, to propose formal vote of thanks.
Well, thank you, Dr. Prabodh Chobe, for an enlightening and informative presentation on the topic, the role of teachers and researchers. Obviously, your knowledge in your field of pharmacochemistry is very vast, and you have linked this knowledge with a great presenting style. I'm sure everyone must be captivated by the speech of Dr. Chobe. Thank you very much, sir. And Thakur College of Science and Commerce is looking forward for the kind collaboration in futures too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, the organizing committee is thankful to the management of the college, especially our principal, Dr. Mrs. Chaitali Chakravarti, who is always supportive and stands with us as a pillar for any difficult situation. Thanks to Dr. Santosh Singh, our IQC coordinator, for the guidance and timely suggestions. Thank you, Santosh sir. I must acknowledge the efforts of the organizing committee and the technical staff for streaming the webinar smoothly, though there was some disconnectivity, but overall, the show was well organized. Thank you all. Last but not least, thanks for all the participants for joining the webinar, and Thakur College of Science and Commerce will be always welcoming you all for the future events. Thank you all once again, especially Dr. Prabodh Chobe for his key role in the event. Don't leave. My colleague Dr. Vinit Vaidya has to say something about feedback. and the e-certificate. Over to Vinit Vaidya.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your kind words. The queries, what you have, you can post the queries on the chat box. The email ID is already given to all of you. There is a feedback link which will be available on the WhatsApp group, which you have to fill the feedback. The link is going to be activated for next 30 minutes. Within that, you need to fill up your feedback so that your e-certificate for the program can be generated. Once again, I repeat that you need to give the feedback within next 30 minutes because the link is going to be activated only for 30 minutes. And whatever is the query regarding this particular session, you can post it on the email ID which is there given in your chat box. Thank you so much, every one of you. And I think with the permission from the chair, we can conclude this session for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you,
so
ma'am.
much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh sir. Thank you, everyone. And now we can conclude the session.